What is going on? What is going on? What is going on, party people? It is your boy, Coach D Brown, former big leaguer, former first round pick with the Kansas City Royals. And man, I know yesterday was a little mix up. I couldn't get into all my pages, man. But today, man, maybe it was meant to be, man. Today, everything's back working like it's supposed to be, man. I got a special guest on today, man. And like I said, I was on the phone earlier, man, talking to some of these parents, and I was talking about this particular guest that I was going to have on, man. And what I see out here these last 4 or 5 years, and I know my boy Carl could, he's going to tell me a lot longer, but I see these so-called gurus online teaching these kids some of the most crazy stuff out there. And you got to get through all the fluff and all that to get to some real instructors that's been there, done that, and is teaching the right way. And that's why I wanted to bring my man on here, man, because I like to listen to different ideas, listen to different things, see people that he's working with, see their swings, because the results are with those guys or what they're doing on the field. Okay, you could be the best teacher, but if it's not resulting on the field, who cares? And that's why I wanted to have my man, someone's going to join us today on here to talk hitting, talk youth baseball, talk some pro stuff, man, and what it just takes, and just share some stories, man. So without further ado, I got former Major League catcher Carl Nichols on with me today, brother. What's going on, Carl? How you doing today, bro?
I'm good, D. How you doing?
Good, man. Well, listen, man, like I do with all my guests, man, and man, you've been around this game a long time, bro. So
Right.
I want you to kind of talk about where you from, playing career, to what you got going on now, man.
Well, I was born and raised in Compton, California. I'm the
Right.
youngest of 10 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, same one mom and dad. So
Wow. That's it.
right.
That's rare. Yeah, that's extremely rare. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, born and raised in Compton. I was a fourth round draft pick out of Compton High School.
Nice.
I actually played shortstop while in
Okay.
high school. I wasn't a shortstop, but I played it.
Nice.
But yeah, so I was drafted out of there. Played 9 years of affiliated ball and about 5, 6 years of uh, independent ball. And so for
How
me,
you switch to catching? Anyway, we could talk about
well,
that. Bro.
well, I was always a catcher. Basically,
Okay.
when I got to high school, we needed a shortstop, so I played
Okay.
shortstop.
Okay.
Because our high school catcher, excuse me, also got drafted. So we were good behind the plate. We needed help at shortstop. And then on top of that, my high school was trying to showcase me. I didn't realize it until later, but that's what he was trying to do by putting me at shortstop, because I wasn't that good at shortstop. But that's what that was. And then yeah, so I played pro professionally, obviously. A couple of years in the big leagues. My path to the big leagues was, I guess, it was like most guys. There's your ups and downs, your struggles, and my thing is with my journey is it didn't turn out the way I planned it, probably like most guys. And but the thing is, when I got out of baseball, I was blaming everybody else for what I didn't do. And it wasn't really until I got into coaching that I really started to understand that everything that didn't happen was because of what I did or didn't do. Obviously we all have our obstacles we have to overcome, and that's every part of everybody's journey. The difference is, how do you deal with them? And I didn't understand how to deal with them. I didn't know how to deal with them until, again, I started coaching youth baseball. Then all this stuff started making more sense to me. So yeah, so and that's what I try to teach the kids I work with. You can make all the excuses you want. It doesn't matter. Okay, you have to take what you want. For example, I got drafted in the fourth round, and as a catcher by the Baltimore Orioles. What I didn't know is they also drafted a catcher in the second round. So those early years, guess who got all the playing time? Right.
Second round.
I spent a lot. Yeah, I spent a lot of time watching him play. Even though in the end I ended up spending more time in the big leagues than him, but that's really not the point. And so during that time, and also when I did get to the big leagues, I was on the bench for the most part, even though physically I was probably a little bit better, at least defensively, than the guys that were playing. But here's where I messed up. During that time on the bench, instead of getting myself better, stronger, or whatever was my weakness was working on that, I spent my time complaining, talking about I should be playing. I'm better than that guy. All right. But then so from that, I missed an opportunity to get better because even though you're sitting on the bench, you're going to get an opportunity somewhere. Maybe a small one, but you're going to get an opportunity.
That's right.
So are you prepared for that opportunity? So that's what I try to teach the kids. Stop sitting here complaining, telling everybody, they're doing this against me because nobody cares. Nobody cares about what's going on. The only thing they care about is when you're on that field, are you producing? If you're producing, you create more opportunities for yourself. It's plain and simple. But again, those opportunities don't start when you get on the field. They start when you're off the field. Your weight training, your conditioning, your lifestyle, all that stuff creates your opportunities. So that's what I learned the hard way. And I try to teach it to these kids so they don't have to go through this nonsense that I went through, that I created, instead of blaming other people. So hopefully I covered it. I kind of.
I think that it's funny when I share a lot of the same things, and many people who say, "Oh, you're in the big league. You played in the big leagues, and like you accomplished your goal." And it's like, yeah, nah, but it's they don't understand 90% of us big leaguers don't have the career that you think you were capable, knowing what you were capable of having. And I think that's big of you to even talk about some of your mishaps and stuff. I'm the same way. I had to get to the point where it's like, I understand I made these mistakes. I can't blame this guy. I can't blame whatever. If I would, you start seeing opportunities you had, but when you're in it, you didn't see them. You know what I mean? And so, but I also love the fact that you said it took you to get into coaching, for you to kind of see the, mistakes that you made from that. So speaking on that coaching, aspect of it, man, how long did you kind of wait before, or did you get right into coaching, or were you doing it while you were still playing? How long have you been really getting into this youth baseball space, man?
Probably, let's see, I stopped in 96. I didn't really start, the first time I actually did some coaching was probably 99, 2000. So about 3 or 4 years for the first time, but didn't really get into it full time until about 2005 or 6, 4, 5, or 6 when I started working at the Urban Youth Academy. So,
right.
And again, what made me see it? So for me, an issue with me as a player was my body language. And guys, there were mentions of it, but I didn't understand it. It was for me, I was like, as long as I play hard, what do you care? I didn't understand what they meant by body language. Then when I started coaching and I'm watching these kids and I'm like, ooh, it like hit me in the gut. I was like, that's what they were talking about.
Yep.
Right. For whatever reason, us, black players or black kids, we have a tendency to have that issue more than other kids. Right. And again, whatever the reason, doesn't matter. Is if it's an issue, then let's address it. So I'm always on kids about their body language. Make sure you're giving out the proper body language at all times, because it makes a big difference on how people perceive you. Because me, I was quiet. I didn't talk a lot. So my body language, kind of rubbed people the wrong way who didn't really know me or understand me fully. Talking about coaches and decision makers. They thought I was something that I wasn't. Simply because of my body language, and I didn't talk a whole lot, because I always thought, keep your mouth shut, do your job, everything will take care of itself. Well, it wasn't quite that simple, but again, I didn't understand the body language when I was in it, but when I started watching it, I was like, man, it was a serious eye opener for me, So, and it affects my coaching style, So I make sure I'm always trying to make sure the kids are showing some type of energy, just stay engaged some kind of way. I encourage them to talk and ask questions of their coaches.
Wow. Why do you want them to do that? I think I know the reason, but I want the audience to understand, why do you encourage kids to ask questions from coaches instead of being super quiet and reserved and thinking you know everything?
Okay, so the perception with us is we don't know the game, or we don't care about the game, right? So if you're asking anybody about their opinion, Tony Robbins talks about this. If you just get people to talk about themselves, they'll like you more.
Yep.
You know, if you just get them talking about themselves, they'll like you more. So if you're asking coaches questions, and then they get to talk about stuff that they love,
Mm.
and then all of a sudden, when you're away from them, man, that kid he's really heads up. They don't even know why they like you. They just like you because you're always
Mm.
asking baseball questions and getting them to talk.
Mm.
Because they eventually, they're talking about themselves. Well, this is what I like
Mm.
to do. This is how we do it. So if you just ask those questions, you know,
Mm.
and it keeps you in the front of that coach's mind.
Say it again.
This kid is always in the game. Let me go see what he can do.
Mm. And
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because I was just having this conversation last week. I can't remember. I don't know if it was online or offline, but I was talking about certain players when I had my travel teams that I was like, it was funny that the ones who used to always ask me the most questions will always happen to be the best players who,
Yeah.
were intrigued and want to know, about the game.
Right.
And they would, the other guys would be joking with him like, oh man, why you asking that? Well, but he would just be, like, what? I want to know what it, he asked like real, like, how was it to hit so and so's
Right.
curveball and how nasty was Mariano's cutter or how was it, D, just, playing in front of X, Y, like little, questions where people thought like, oh man, why are you asking him? But he was really inquisitive and he just so happened to be the best player, you know what I'm saying, on the team, but that's awesome that you saying that right now.
Yeah, because again, I didn't understand the politics of the game. That's part of the politics. And it applies to any field. When you get people to like you, and when it comes to decision time, they're going to want you a part of this, of what they're doing. It's as simple as that.
I think that what you're saying is parents. I hope you understand. Body language and having your kids ask a lot of questions to these coaches. Okay, and those are just two tips so far. I bet there's going to be a lot more. But I'm a bit. I actually love what you said about. You took some of your issues and now you see it from your guys and you on them. Mine is the running the base aspect of, that was my biggest thing was like, I didn't understand why they were just harping on me. I thought I was running hard all the time. You know what I'm saying? But it took one of my minor league coaches to say, D, one day you're going to coach and you're going to see a kid open and not whatever, and it's going to piss you off like how you pissing me off, right? And I was like, whatever. Now that's the biggest pet peeve I have is just like.
That was one of my issues too. But I eventually learned to run everything out. That's something you can learn to do. You can learn to hustle. It's not natural for everybody, but everybody can learn it. And then eventually for me, it just becomes second nature for me to run everything out. It wasn't a big deal. But until that person gets it, you just have to stay on them until they get it.
I hope they take it. And I like when you said, we do, as young black, ball players have a different body language and some, I had this conversation years ago. I mean, I used to think they were always picking on me, but one of the coaches, you might remember him too. He's been around a long time. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with Tom Gamboa. And Gamby,
greatest field coordinator ever.
Right. So Gamby used to be like, he used to tell me all the time, man, D, he was like, we had the same issue. He used to talk to me about body language and, he didn't ever understand why certain coaches felt a certain way about me. And he was like, man, coming up through the Padre system, he was saying Derek Lee, first member of D Lee, he had a bad issue with the body. He said they used to ride him so hard. And one of the reasons why they ended up trading him to the Marlins, I think, before he went to the Cubs and all that. Right. He got his money with the Cubs, but I think he made the money with the Marlins. And he was like, that's one of the biggest issues. He's like, he was Gamby, he was a straight up shooter. Like, you guys just have a different type of swag, but it comes off, and I don't think he used the word swag, but you guys just have a different type of feel, about it. He's like, it comes off as, almost lazy or not caring, like you said. But I like what you said. It can be learned. You know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily have to be the hustler. And, we call it eyewash, man. But those are the guys that, these dudes love to look at, man. So if I'm a young ball player, right, and you've been coaching this youth space for 20 years, man, and, what are some of the top three we're going to talk hitting a little bit, but I'm just talking
Right.
from the perception of a scouts and
Uh,
recruiting and what you're supposed to look like on the field. What are the top three um, tips that you can give an aspiring young baseball player that is looking to get recruited or definitely looking to get some pro love?
well, one we just talked about. It doesn't take any talent to hustle. Okay, hustling will get you a whole lot of stuff. It'll help you win games. It'll help. That's the first thing you notice about a player. For me, when I'm watching the game, even if I'm just there casually, I'm looking to see who's the first one on the field and who's the first one off the field. That's that gets my attention right away.
Mm,
Okay, that
mm,
because there's something about that guy who's always the first one on the field because
mm,
he wants to play.
mm,
As somebody who's looking for players, I want that kid that wants to play, even if he's is short on his talent a little bit. That can help him overcome that talent deficit if he wants to
mm,
play, if he wants to win.
mm,
So that's always the first thing that I look for. The kid that wants to hustle.
mm.
Uh, you know, After that, well, obviously you want guys that can swing the bat. Good base runners, like you say. I always look for the small stuff because the big stuff is obvious.
Mm.
And there doesn't take much skill to notice those guys. I always look for those little things, those guys that run the bases, the guys that know where they're supposed to be when the ball's hit, and I'm sure but it's amazing how many supposedly high level players don't know where to go when the ball's hit. And it's crazy to me,
Amen.
and I'm talking about guys they're talking about getting drafted.
Right.
I'm working whether we're doing double cutoff. Oh, we never did this before. How do you not know this stuff? This is stuff you're supposed to know in little league. So little stuff like that I always look for because the other stuff again it's obvious, you can see it, and it seems that the more talented the player, the less they pay attention to the little stuff.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
for,
mm.
and then they get into at the next level, and then they struggle and don't know why they're struggling. And they got to
Mm.
spend 2-3 years in rookie ball, just to learn this stuff they should have learned in little league. So that's what
Amen.
I always look for: the little stuff, the energy, guys that are paying attention because they're easier to teach,
Mm,
because they
mm.
want to learn.
Speaking of it, been around the 20 year, so like um the type of players that's what they are now, and I don't want to be like, oh, back then, whatever, but the transition over the last 15 plus years that you've been in this youth baseball space, you
Mhm.
know what has been the transition of, like, the type of players? What are some of the things that are done, good or bad, now that 10 to 15 years ago not necessarily was the case when you first was getting into this youth baseball space?
If I'm putting a team together, let's just say take the money out of it, I'm able to handpick my players. I'm looking for I'm looking for athletes first. Give me the athletes, and I'll give me athletes and pitchers that can throw strike, and I can beat any team in America.
Mm,
Okay, that's what I look for. But with the way the game is being played now, uh, you don't need athletes as much. At
mm,
least that's what they think. All right, but if you watch the World Series, you saw where Mookie Betts showed that athletes are needed on the field, especially in a short series. And I think eventually it's going to go back to that.
mm,
Because
mm,
because I'm looking. But yeah, so I look for athletes, and I think that's where the game has changed a whole lot. When we got drafted, the draft would go. Like the year I got drafted, Darryl Strawberry was the first pick, obvious first pick. Okay, so after that, basically you're picking, the best ball player, best athlete that was on the list. That's
right.
how the draft went.
Okay.
Now at the draft, they're picking who can we sign first,
Mm,
not necessarily the best athlete.
amen.
Because there's a lot of good athletes that aren't going with who aren't getting drafted where they probably should be getting drafted.
Mm,
So
mm,
they're not necessarily, or in the past few years, haven't been looking for the best athletes. You're looking for the guys that they can sign.
mm,
Because and then with the analytic stuff, with the all or nothing type baseball that's going on, you don't really need the athletes.
mm.
I'm watching games. They got 4 outfielders out there, and then they got the other 2 infielders on the same side of the field. I'm like, that ain't baseball.
Right.
Why isn't this guy just hitting a little ground ball to third base and getting that free hit?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
but,
Right.
so
I love
that's
it. I love what you just said, man. And keep going, but I just love what you said. And I'm not looking at it like that, like how you are. You giving me, knowledge over there. Like you don't need to be an athlete to play in today's game because of the shifting that's going on, and four outfielders out there, and all, so
Right.
you don't necessarily need the athletes out there. Man, Anyway, that's yeah. I'm not. I'm not. I haven't looked at it like that, but you're right.
I mean, just think about this. Look at all the center fielders in today's game, and look at all the center fielders between the '70s and '80s, and
Right.
tell me what you see that's different.
Right.
When I was playing or coming up, you had guys like Willie McGee and Gary
Right.
Pettis and
Right.
all these guys that could fly, cover
Right.
ground in the outfield.
Right.
Just big leaguers based on their defense.
Right.
And
Right.
that's not to knock anybody today, but
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not the athletes at least when I was in the game or
Right.
playing and coming up that I saw. So
Right. Right. Oh, amen to that, man. And I want to kind of, it's a question in there, man, because I just briefly went over that, man. But I'm gonna start. Chipper asked this question. He's a Cali boy, and we're gonna talk about where you're from and the type of ball players that was freaking being at the
okay,
pipeline that
right.
was coming out of that area, man. But anyway, Chipper asked, what year did you graduate from Compton High School?
1980.
All right. So like he just said, 1980, Dow Strawberry, right? You had Strawberry, Eric Davis. You had, talk about the talent that was coming out of that South Central LA
Okay.
area during that time frame, man.
All right. So I played just in Connie Mack. We had Compton Connie Mack, where everybody in LA, everybody black at least in LA came to play. So just when I played against Darrell Strawberry and his two brothers. His brother Michael was also drafted. I played with, and I've been playing with Eric Davis since we were 12 years old.
Wow.
Chris Brown, Chili Davis.
Chili, okay.
Yeah, Chili went to Dorsey. Chris Brown went to Crenshaw, I believe.
Nice.
With the Giants. Who's the other name? Johnny Rad was drafted by the Giants. Chili Davis. A whole bunch of big leaguers slip my mind right now. So those are some guys that I played against. So guys that were a couple of years older than me, Eddie Murray, Ozzie Smith, Chet Lemon, Kenny Landreau, Gary Ward, Daryl Jackson, Lenny Randall, Reggie Smith is from that area. Man, I wish I had a list in front of me. There's so many guys that came through there. And here's the crazy part. Some of the best players that were playing at that time never even made it to the big leagues.
Wow.
There was a guy named Wayne Simpson who played. He actually did play in the big leagues with the Reds. You hurt his arm as a pitcher, but he's a legend in LA. He's a quarterback. Really? They talked about him, about how he could throw a football on the run 80 yards while on the run. Another guy named Mickey Curitan who played football at UCLA, who was a stud baseball player, but ended up playing football. Bobby Darwin. I don't know if you know Bobby Darwin, but he played in the big leagues with the Twins. He was a two-way guy.
Wow.
Pitcher and outfielder, and he's a legendary scout who just retired from LA. I mean, the list goes on and on. Daryl Thomas is from there. There's just a whole bunch of guys. So, and matter of fact, a friend of mine, Daryl Jackson, he talks about how when he left, he tells a story when he was playing there. A scout from Arizona State came to watch, I think, Kenny Landreau. So they were going to offer him. And he said he was there watching the game, and he said before he left that night, he offered 6 different guys scholarships. Before he left,
I was there.
Yeah, and just watching one game. It was a whole lot of talent of it. In fact, there was more speed there than it was when I got in the pro ball.
I already about to say. I already know what you're about to say. Yeah. You probably, though, you take 20 of the top kids over there. You probably breeze through the minor leagues. You know what I'm saying? With the type of talent that was, obviously you had Hall of Famers and guys that played 15, 20 years in the major leagues, man. So speaking of that, man, because I forgot where that I saw, I read or listened to a story about the type of talent that was coming out of that LA area during those times, man. And is it just typical that, because LA is, if anything, has grown bigger, you know what I'm saying? But is it just typical that the athletes just went to the football and the basketballs, or Because the money is being poured back into the Comptons.
Yeah.
That I heard the field is really nice over there, but what is it? You know what I'm saying? What's going on over there that
Well, again, during our time, everybody played every sport. So you had all the athletes playing baseball at the time. There's a number of contributing factors, and specifically within LA. It's one, the demographics has changed. All the people that were focused and concentrated in that South LA area, they're not there anymore. The other thing too is probably the biggest factor for me, not probably the biggest factor for me is college scholarships. It's just easier to get a college football, basketball scholarship. It's that simple. If there were 100% baseball scholarships, you will see a whole lot more people playing baseball and trying to get into college. For me, it's as simple as that. If you want to make one change to get black kids back into playing, offer 100% scholarships in baseball, and you'll see it.
Yep.
Because I had kids that I coached, friends that said who played football, said they wish they could have played baseball, but they couldn't afford to. The only way they can get into college was to play football.
And it's funny you say that because I was, I ain't gonna sit and say like I would have chose baseball anyway, but I didn't even sniff going to play college baseball simply because I knew I wasn't gonna get a full ride. I didn't even, I mean, I had all the who's coming after me, way more bigger schools after me with baseball than football. But I would tell them right away, like, yo, I'm going football. And they were like, wow, well, I'm real off you. I was like, no, full ride. I mean, I'm like, why am I gonna get my parents to pay the money that they don't have anyway? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that would change things overnight if that were possible.
Do you ever see it being possible?
Well, anything's possible. Is it going that way? Not at the moment. I know Dave Winfield tried to make some suggestions that they didn't really go anywhere. So maybe at some point, but right now I don't know.
So most catching guys, right? They get into it. They obviously I know you could teach catching like the back of the hand, but most of them become managers and pitchers, which I know you do manage, high level teams. We're going to talk about some of the teams and stuff that, you got going on, man. But I listen to you in the hitting side of things, man. And, you're really good at what you do, man. And, what are some of the key pointers, the key, trigger points that you look at any new hitter that you kind of see? Like, what do you see with a kid that says, okay, this kid has a really good idea of what he's doing? What's the first thing you may look at when it comes to, examining a kid when you're working them out or something like that says, okay, this kid knows what he's doing?
The first couple of things I try to look at is, their balance and their bat speed. The bat speed is going to dictate how well you're able to execute the moves you need to make to be a good hitter. So it all starts with bat speed, because the less bat speed you have, the more you have to compensate some kind of way, which just throws everything off. So those are the first couple of things that I look for, and then and obviously the hand-eye coordination, which most baseball players have. But but those are a couple of things, two things that I look at, and then then from there I just go you go into the details if you're working with them, because then the other thing I look for is timing, which not enough coaches talk about. Because if your timing is off, it doesn't matter what you tell them, whether it's right or wrong, nothing's going to work.
Say that again, coach.
If your timing is not right, nothing you tell a kid is going to work. He's just going to end up compensating. Fixing one thing, then another thing goes wrong because the timing is off.
And that's funny. Like a lot of kids, I sometimes the kids be like, "Oh, coach, I'm doing this and I'm breaking down and all that. I'm getting my hands," and I'm like, dude, if you're on time, it's just funny how everything looks smooth and everything. But when you're not on time, you like you said, you compensate, you break down and try to get the bat head to it, and you get long or try to get through the zone too fast, man. But let me get this question in, coach, and then we keep talking this hitting thing. But what was your two-strike approach to hitting? This two-strike approach stuff.
That for you or for me?
That was for you, bro. I'm
Okay.
he's saying what's up to me, but
Oh, okay, okay. So
you're the guest here, man. So
I got two answers to that. Okay, my two strike approach didn't work. Okay, and that's before I answer that question, I want to make this clear. When I'm teaching hitting, I'm not teaching kids to hit the way that I used to hit or the way that I was taught to hit because it didn't work.
mm,
Okay, so
mm.
to get that clear, people go try looking up my stats. And, well, how's he teaching hitting? And so I'm not teaching anybody to hit the way I used to hit because I already know it doesn't work.
Listen,
Okay,
dude, you made it to the big leagues, man. So I don't care
right?
what nobody say,
No,
man.
I
Until somebody
know.
sit there and give
Yeah,
give you their average in the major leagues, I don't care what
right,
nobody had to say because I get it a lot too. So anyway,
right.
go ahead.
So
Yeah,
you understand then, all right.
yeah, no doubt.
So
Yeah.
so here's
Yeah.
here's what I discovered with two strike approaches. Um, when people get two strikes, because when a kid gets two strikes, what's the first thing we hear from the coaches or from the stands? See the ball first, or stay back, all that other stuff. So what you end up doing is what we just talked about. You end up starting late, okay? And what I discovered something by accident that when we chase balls out of this breaking balls specifically out of the strike zone or in the dirt or whatever, we
Mm,
usually do it because we're starting late,
mm,
right?
mm,
And this is how I discovered it. So I was watching. Well, actually, somebody else discovered it and pointed it out to me. Got a split screen of the same hitter, two pitches or two at bats, same pitch, two different results, right? So one at bat he hit a double, the other at bat got jammed and popped it up, and they were both breaking balls. So when he had this split screen at the point of where his front foot landed, right, and then he started clicking it on the double. There were 12 clicks between uh, foot landing and contact. On the one
mm,
where he got jammed, there were only 8 clicks between when his foot landed and where he got jammed, right?
mm,
And so I
mm.
started thinking about it. So I started watching guys, and sure enough, guys were chasing balls out of the strike zone because they were starting late because they're waiting to see what the ball's going to do, right?
Mm, mm,
So now I teach two strike approach. You start early, just like you do when it's 2-0,
mm,
right? So that you
mm,
get an early look at the ball so you can make good
mhm.
decisions. Because when you think about it, when you're 2-0, 3-1, right, you're sitting on a fastball, right? You cheating. And if
That's
the
right.
guy throws you a breaking ball, you take it
That's right.
because it wasn't the pitch you were looking for because
That's
you
right.
identified it early and you saw
Mhm,
that's not the pitch I want. So you do the same thing with two strikes. The only difference is you have to swing at anything that's close. Okay.
mm,
That keeps you from chasing balls out of the strike zone.
mm.
You can choke up or whatever, because I used to choke up and all that. You can, choke up if you want to, but you still have to start early when you get two strikes. That'll keep you from chasing so many balls in the dirt that you have a tendency to do with two strikes.
So
So
let me.
that's the approach I
I'm sorry.
teach.
Okay, keep going. Keep going. I'm sorry. Hmm.
No, I was saying that's just the approach I teach with two strikes, and it
Oh,
seems
okay,
to
cool.
work
Because
for
I'm
guys.
about to ask, do you tell them to do anything different with their strides or anything like that? And I know everybody's different, but
Right.
I just want to kind of hear like based off the question from the
Not necessarily, because the way I teach hitting, the stride is already short. Reduce the head movement, all that kind of stuff. So that really isn't necessary if they're doing the other stuff that I'm teaching them.
Mm,
Again, it's just the approach. Start early so that you can make good decisions when that ball. Because remember, when you're hitting, you don't see the ball the last 20 feet. So you literally are guessing where the ball's going to be. Your
mm,
brain is telling you where the ball's going to be and where to deliver the bat. Okay.
mm,
So if you shorten that 20, or if you lengthen that 20 feet to 30 or 40 feet, okay, now your brain isn't guessing right. And that's why
mm,
you end up chasing balls out of the strike zone or missing, swinging and missing and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So,
mm,
so the longer look you get at the ball, the better assessment your brain can make of where the ball is actually going to be when it enters the hitting zone.
mm.
So that's the science part of it that I learned,
Uh,
from guys.
that's
But
great. It's great information, man.
yeah,
Because it's funny how, like, and I'm sure you've been around many of hitters who um, had a lot of big movements leading up to two strikes, and then they
mhm.
calm. I'm not
Right,
talking kids. I'm talking about guys
right,
that
big
know
league,
and
yeah,
they ended up keeping their two-strike approach as their main swing and end up having great careers off of that because, like you said, they started early.
Well, the guy that did that was your guy, Mike Sweeney.
Mike Sweeney, that's who is coming to my. It's funny.
That's Mike Sweeney. That's
exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Main thing. He ended up having a great career because of that two-strike approach. He
right.
went.
So, because he said, why not just do this all the time? And then he ended up being a 300 hitter and all-star and all that kind of stuff. Now, here's the crazy part. I did that kind of myself, but I was too stupid to stay with it. I always went back to the big movements and long stride and all that stuff, and I wasn't smart enough to stick with the, that type of approach, which would have given me better numbers. So, but yeah, Mike Sweeney, he's a perfect example of that.
That's the main guy I was thinking about when I said it's funny you brought that up because I remember when he made the change and it was like and I mean that dude would hit everything, but he was early. It was like he hit balls up here, be low.
Yeah, Jeff Bagwell too, same way. He did the same thing.
Man, I got a couple more questions. How do you teach timing? Because my 12U is on time with pitchers who throw gas, but out in front with lesser pitchers.
Well, that's not a timing issue. That's usually an issue with his head moving too much laterally. That's usually what causes that. Because think about it. Let's think about it logically. If you can hit a guy, let's talk about on the big field. If you can hit a guy throwing 95, why can't you hit a guy throwing 80? That never made any sense to me. So it's not that he's throwing. I hear guys say, "Oh, he's throwing too slow." No, he's not throwing too slow. You're doing something wrong that's causing you not to be able to hit that, and it's usually because their head is moving laterally too much. Because if your head moves more than I think it's 4 inches laterally, you become legally blind. Literally.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
You become blind and you can't see.
I always say because you're adding 2 to 3 miles per hour on that fastball.
Yeah, you are, but you don't see it. You're losing it sooner or further out because your head's moving too far. And that's been proven in the lab.
Wow.
So a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, it came from golf because golf, they know this. They've been working on this stuff 15 years ahead of baseball. With all the studies that they've done. Because your balance affects your vision, your posture, all that stuff, and your head movement. You got to reduce your head movement, and because if you watch guys like the guys that don't strike out a lot, Tony Gwynn, Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols has over 600 home runs, never struck out more than 62 times in a season. And if you watch him hit, his head doesn't move.
Not at all.
It's that simple. You reduce your head movement, you improve your contact consistency.
Listen,
so if a guy's having trouble with slow pitches, it's probably because his head's moving too much laterally.
Listen, again, I love hitting. I love talking hitting, and I'm always learning. Okay, so what he just said is something I done been in around this pro game 20 years or so, and that lateral when he said the lateral part 4 inches, you become legally blind. I just always say it adds more miles per hour. Yeah. You jumping at the ball. Yeah, you that this is something that I learned, and that's awesome advice, man. Awesome advice. Let me get some more of these questions coming in. All right. Shout out to my boy B Web over there in Chi-Town. All right. I know it was you with that 2-strike approach. I know you asked that question. I know that's your thing. How do you handle the sliders? Do you have to sit on it as well? Whoa.
All right. That's a good question. And there's actually 2 answers to that I have. All right. So first of all, this was an issue when I was playing. Actually, there's 3 parts to this question. Okay. So you remember Dave Steve?
Yeah. Dirty. He was dirty. Yeah.
Well, let's think about this. If Dave Steve has this good slider going, what are you going to do with it?
You ain't going to hit shit. You're not
going to do anything with it. Right. Okay. So me as a player, my issue was I go up to the plate. I'm worried about that nasty slider that I can't hit anyway, right? I'm worried about that slider. I just took fastball down the middle for strike 1. That's how I used to hit. I was so focused on the negative, which I call it, worried about pitches that I couldn't hit no matter what I did. That I ended up taking a lot of pitches that I should hit. Okay, so one, teach your hitters to stop focusing on that guy's best pitch because you can't do anything with it anyway.
Mm.
Maybe foul it off. That's not your job anyway. Your job is to take advantage of the guy's mistake. Okay, good pitchers obviously make fewer mistakes, but they still make mistakes. Okay, if you're ready to hit when he makes a mistake, then you don't have to worry about that slider,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Now, more to the answer to the question is basically you can hit the slider by maintaining your posture, an athletic posture. Okay, if your back is straight, if your spine is straight, you can't get to that ball away from you. It's harder to get that ball away from you. Again, if you watch any good hitter at any level, they're in an athletic position when their foot hits the ground, which gives them plate coverage. Okay, allows you to cover that ball, get to that slider that's not only on the outer corner, but even off the plate a little bit.
That's right.
Again, you're not going to make a living off that pitch, but at the very least, maybe you can foul it off and maybe get another pitch.
Mm.
That's the whole purpose of being able to get to those pitches. Because
Mm.
again, if you're facing Dave, Steve, or Matt Scherzer, and they throw you that nasty slider, you ain't hitting it. So why you even work? Why you even wasting energy thinking about it?
Exactly.
And I'll tell you a quick story
Mm-hmm.
relating to that. So I'm catching in Baltimore, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Henderson's hitting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole show in itself, Ricky Henderson.
You ain't lying. Hey, one of my favorite players, man. But
Right.
yeah, go
So
ahead.
Ricky's hitting. He's walking up the plate. He's talking to the bat.
Yeah.
And we got a left-hander on the mound. And left-hander on the mound, great changeup named Eric Bell. So first pitch, throw Ricky a a changeup out in front. The helmet goes flying. Okay, strike one. I was like, okay, you look that bad. We're gonna throw you another one. I throw him another one out in front. Helmet goes flying. Strike two. So now I got him set up, right? Okay, so I'm saying we're gonna bust him in with a fastball off the plate, and then come back with another changeup.
Right.
Call for his fastball in, he throws it, pitcher hits his spot, and Ricky turns on it and hits it behind him. Exactly. That was my look. And I'm sitting there like, how in the heck are you ready for a fastball like that? Have you not only seen them, but you look bad on them.
Right.
You would think you're gonna be trying to stay back for the changeups or whatever.
Yeah.
But it hit me. I realized that, and not just Ricky, but all the good big league hitters, it didn't matter the count to them. If you throw them a pitch that they can hit, they were ready for it. And the count didn't matter to them, right? That's what was going on in his mind.
Right.
Okay, Eddie Murray, on the same team, used to tell me, I don't care how hard you're throwing, you are not going to get a fastball by me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he said, you may get me out with this, change ups and curveballs, but you ain't throwing a fastball by me. And then now he didn't mean he was going to get a hit. He just meant he was going to put a good swing on it.
That's right.
The result, whatever.
That's right.
But that's how all good big league hitters think. Okay? They're always ready for a pitch to hit. They already know that if you make your pitches, you're going to get me out.
Right.
So they don't focus on that.
Right.
The rest of us, we focus on, that guy making a good pitch, man, and then we end up missing pitches we could at least be swinging at. So that's the difference in the mentality of good hitters versus bad hitters.
I think that and it's funny you say that because I was talking about it earlier today with I think he's on. Shout out to my boy Terrell out in Arkansas, and we were talking about, you got a youth kid. It's talking about getting one pitch and all of that and missing it. And I was like, nah, the youth space, they're gonna give you a handful of pitches to, the higher you go, the lesser opportunities you have. I said you just have to be ready to hit. But I was like, you're not gonna make a living, because he was talking. I can't remember the location or what type of pitch. And I was like, but listen, you're not gonna make a living trying to hit their pitch. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna do it. You have to hit mistakes, and you can't miss them. You know what I'm saying? But I also love. You've been, again, in this youth space, they get caught up on velo. I love what you just said. You just said, listen, the mentality of a big time hitter is, I'm not going to get beat by this fastball.
Right.
And I tell kids all the time, my problem, is the lesser guys that didn't throw so hard but had the movement of the pitches. That was my thing. The guy that used to think that he was going to throw that 4-seam by me is when I used to grab the bat and be ready to go. Right. And so and I know it has to be a mentality thing, but from a youth baseball space, how do you get them to overcome that velo of like getting nervous and worried about that guy that throws hard. Now, 17, 18-year-old kid throwing 96, 97. I understand. Like, I ain't seen that before. Maybe a little, that's high level, but you ain't gonna see too many kids on a regular basis doing that type of stuff. But 88 to a kid may be extremely high, depending on what part of the country they're from. So how do you get them to understand that, hey, high to velo, get that point from maybe, and that fastball goes a long way if you get connected to that.
That's funny. A quick funny story. I was at the Braves game last year, after I just moved here, and DeGrom was pitching for the Mets, and I'm like, man, he about to wear these dudes out, right? And for whatever reason, he didn't have his off-speed stuff that day, but he was throwing 97. And they were just tattooing him all over the yard. Every time he threw a pitch, I'm looking up at the velocity on the scoreboard. He's throwing 97, and they still taking these cuts at it. And I text my buddy in California, DeGrom out here throwing BP at 97.
Right.
Right. And it's real simple. Again, big leaguers know this. When the guy's throwing hard, you just start sooner. When you start sooner, it slows everything down. And then you just put a good swing on it. That's how you hit guys with velocity. And again, these youth guys, they're just chasing velocity, and and hardly any of them got a decent breaking ball. And if they do throw a breaking ball, it's belt high.
Yep.
And so if you start early or start on time, and I always say start early, all right, get to a good hitting position. If he does throw you a breaking ball, you will automatically adjust to it to hit it, so you don't even have to think about it. Because like we just talked about before, if he throws you a good breaking ball, you're not going to hit it. So you might as well not even get that out of your mind. Exactly. But if he hangs that thing belt high, if you're in position on time, you will automatically adjust to it and should be able to hit it. So if you just look, so I teach guys, whoever's pitching, if he's throwing 99 or if he's throwing 79, get your body ready for that guy's hardest pitch. Anything slower than that, you will be able to hit it. It's that simple. If you're in the right hitting position.
Right. Yeah. And that's the hardest part, to get to that point all the time. But if you get in there more times than often, you're going to be a good hitter. You give yourself the best chance. That's how I say, as a hitter, you want to give yourself the best chance to, compete and hit, and just basically hit a good ball. Hit the ball hard is getting in a good position more times than not.
So at the big league level, if you're just successful 30% of the time, you go into the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
If you're successful 25% of the time, you're getting paid.
Yeah, nowadays, hell yeah.
Right? Nowadays, the mentality is, we tend to focus on the 70% instead of focusing on the 30%. If you focus on the 30%, things work out better for you in the long run.
Yep. All right, we have a question here from Calvin. Calvin says, MLB scouts have relationships with high school coaches, correct? ? Is this one of the ways a kid gets on the radar of MLB scouts?
Well, obviously you got to have some tools, at the high school level to get on their radar. But I know what a lot of scouts will do, especially a new scout.
Why won't you answer me? Hello?
What they'll do is they'll send out questionnaires to the high school coaches in their area, and basically they just ask them, who's on your team that I should be looking at, and then they'll send back the names, and then the scouts will go look at them. Then they'll decide if this kid's really somebody I should be following, and if he is, then they'll keep following him. It's that simple, But obviously, you can't, me as a high school coach, if I give a scout a name of a kid that can't play. The scout comes and watches him play, and the kid can't play, he's going to be reluctant to take that high school coach's word the next time. So the coach has to keep some credibility by giving the scout legit kids who can play. But eventually, it'll come out, because when I was living in LA, I had a couple of scouts friends. If I saw a kid, I would call the scout, hey, there's a kid over here at this school. You might want to, keep an eye out for him, especially if he was younger. Keep an eye out for him, because the kid looked like he's gonna be able to play. Because I know the one scout he would write down names of kids all the way down to the 8th grade. Kids we need to look out for. So a lot of younger kids because I hear from scouts, they think they're not on the radar, and they're on the radar. The scouts just not haven't contacted you yet. He's paying attention, and then when you hit that junior year, going into your senior year, all of a sudden you start getting these phone calls. But you bring up a scout's name. In fact, Dad just told me this today. About he hadn't heard anything, and then all of a sudden scouts started contacting about his kid. Well, now it's because it's his turn. So if you can play, you're on somebody's radar. And if you're not on somebody's radar, and this is why it's important to always, no matter where you are playing, for that kid to be playing at the top of his game, because you don't know who's watching. Because I go, one of the things I've always liked doing is just showing up to a park and watching the kids work out or play. They don't know who I am. I'm dressed like a bum. I see a kid out there. Who is that kid? Oh, that's what that is. Okay, and then I call somebody I know. There's a kid over here. You might want to keep an eye out for him because the kid got some skills. Right?
I love it. I love it.
You got to teach your kids to always be, when they step on that field, to always be ready to play it at the top of their game, because you don't know who's watching. And I've seen it time, and I can tell you a bunch of stories about a kid had no idea who was watching them.
I love it, man.
Good and bad.
Right. I mean, listen, man. I love what you just said, man. And ball players, coaches, ball players, man. We all kind of get to that point where like you said, if you see some ball, sometimes I saw like and I say ball players, coaches, ball players, ball players. I saw I was in an apartment complex, and it was I don't even know where he was from, but he was left-handed and he was throwing good size, and he was out there just throwing a baseball with him and his buddy or a family member or whatever, and he was left-handed, big, good, strong kid, and I was like, yo, you pitch? And he was like, nah. I was like, I did, but he's like, I just moved here from so-and-so country, right? And I was like, really? I was like, you're a big kid. I was like, you don't play baseball? He's like, no, I play on the weekends and, whatever. I used to play. I told you, 23. I was like, damn. So I was like, I was like, if you ever want to come and really work out, catcher and everything. He was like, no, I'm fun. I'm having fun. No, nothing, no. But I was just bugging. And my daughter was like, why you ask him, whatever. He's just, and he was like almost in street car. I was like, because he was big, tall, left-handed, tall, left-handed, and she was like, gosh, you always like, gotta just talk to random people, whatever.
When I lived in Milwaukee, when I was coaching high school in Milwaukee, I recruited a kid after watching him throw snowballs. he was just throwing snowballs at another kid, and I ended up recruiting him, got him on the baseball team.
Wow.
So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's tough. That's crazy.
All
right. Anyway, I'm sorry. I ain't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
All right. On the Blacks in Baseball the other day page, we posted about the lack of black catchers. In the 70 years since Mr. Robinson, there has not been 25 black catchers in Major League Baseball. Why is that?
Well, one is, not a lot of black kids want to catch.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
And then the other thing too is a lot of kids who maybe are catching. A lot of times they end up being like really good athletes, and they just get moved to other positions. Because I know on that same thread, Carl Everett, who played a bunch of years in the big leagues, he said he was a catcher up until he was 19.
Really?
That's what I said. But yeah, and they just moved him to the outfield because of his bat and his athleticism.
Right.
So a lot of that plays a part too. Because with me, if I had been faster, if I had more foot speed, I probably would have been an outfielder too. But I wasn't really that fast, so catcher was my best position because of my arm. And even though I wasn't like fast, I was quick and athletic behind the plate. Which made me, defensively a good catcher. But if I had more foot speed, I would have been at another position. I probably would have stayed a shortstop. But a lot of times our guys just end up being. Chili Davis was a catcher.
Really?
Yeah, he was a catcher growing up. Because the way he swung it, they threw him in the outfield. You know what? And that just doesn't apply to black players too, because Dale Murphy was a catcher for the Atlanta Braves. He came up as a catcher. There's a whole lot of guys who were catchers, but because of the way they swing the bat, they move them into a different position.
Jason Worth is the one that's coming to my mind. Jason Worth. I remember he was a catcher coming up, drafted as a catcher.
Dave Stewart was a catcher.
Who?
Dave Stewart.
The pitcher?
Yep. He originally signed as a catcher.
Wow.
Kenley Jansen was a catcher.
Kenley Jansen, yeah. I'm about to say, I remember him. He was crying and man, dude, I had him because he was a rookie, like a young 19, 20-year-old kid my last year in the States, and he was like, man, they're making me want to be pitched, man. I really want to catch. Now look at him, $80 million later, you know.
All right.
I haven't seen him since he became a star. I want to be like, hey, you they were telling you right, dude, you know?
Yeah, so it's just, there's not a big pool of catchers, and then the ones that are catchers, they're usually pretty good athletes with pretty good bats, and they just move them to other positions. So that, and then, back in the day, there was the whole, the thinking man's position nonsense and all that stuff. I don't know how big a part that played in it, but with me, there was the only way I was going to make it was as a catcher. So I had to be a catcher, and then catching, throwing, calling the game. Those were my strong points.
All right. Chipper says, so when his son is pitching, and in his mind he is going up against Mike Trout, what do you say to that?
I say don't hang it. Don't leave it out over the plate. That's what I say.
All right. All right. Why don't coaches have their kids play pepper anymore? And why are so many coaches teaching that barrel to the catcher? So many strikeout nowadays, making the game boring.
Why don't kids play pepper anymore? That's a good question. Matter of fact, I think I need to get my kids playing more pepper.
Yeah, barrel to the catcher. I'm not figuring that one out.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about on that one. Maybe he's talking about knob to the catcher.
Knob to the catcher. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's knob to the catcher, it just gives you the proper angle that the bat needs to be in when you're hitting.
Right.
So many strikeouts. Yeah, it's there's a lot of reason for a strikeout. You got more guys throwing hard than there used to be, so I'm sure that has something to do with it.
Yeah, there's some flamethrowers coming out of that pen nowadays. Back in our days, it was like you wanted to get to the pen. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like, shoot.
You're facing a different pitcher every at bat. That's tough.
Yeah, man.
Instead of facing that same guy 3 times.
Right.
So there's a lot of factors in that go into that.
Chipper says, I need to know how to contact Mr. Carl. What I'll do at the end of this, Carl, I know that
he knows how to contact me. He's my Facebook friend. All you gotta do is send me a message.
Okay, there you go, Chipper. All right. But I still want to get your information out there. Just Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want. Because there may be some people that don't have your information that may want to work with you. All right. So, how do you feel about swing at pitchers that you can handle versus strikes? Regarding swing at pitchers out of the strike zone, but you can drive versus the blue calling you out on something close and taking.
Yeah, what he's talking about, it's something I learned. Well, I had this in my mind anyway, but Reggie Smith who taught me that, and he wasn't the only one, but basically it's every strike is not a good pitch to hit, and every good pitch to hit is not a strike. Because I have this conversation with hitters all the time. So, for example, when I ask guys all the time, what pitch would you rather hit? 94 on the black on the outside corner for a strike, or a changeup that's just above the strike zone? That's a ball. Right. What pitch would you rather hit? Most of the time, they say the changeup. And then for my guys who are run producers, okay, or my guys who are pitchers, when you hang that breaking ball belt high, and it's going to be, hey, what comes out of your mouth when you let it go? Holy crap, right? Yeah. And then for me as a catcher, and my pitcher throws a hanging breaking ball, and that hitter beats it into the ground. Even if he gets a hit, you just did me a favor.
Say it again.
Yeah, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do with that pitch.
You ain't lying.
You're supposed to be trying to hit that pitch 9 miles. And I don't care if you're not necessarily a home run hitter. You at least should be trying to hit that ball into the gap past the outfielder when the pitcher hangs that pitch for you.
That's right. That's right.
But again, that's a mentality, because we're teaching our kids so much, just be happy putting the ball in play. So what if they throw you out? I'm like,
That's why I like that 2-strike approach as far as like, because you can have your A swing on the 2-strike, but I like what you said. It's just like
obviously with 2 strikes.
A swing and 2 strikes.
Yeah, with 2 strikes, you can do that, and that's fine. But I'm talking about when you're in those hitters counts, especially when you got men on base, and you're supposed to be a run producer.
Right.
That's what you should be thinking about.
Right.
Because guys that take that, that's trying to do damage, those are the guys that fear me more than the guys that's just trying to put the ball in play. Even if you're hitting 300, if you're just putting the ball in play, I'm gonna give you base hits all day, especially if you're not a base stealer. Here, take this fastball down the middle and get out of the way.
Right.
So a lot of guys because they're hitting 300 that they're more valuable or they're more feared than the guys who may be hitting 270.
Oh, say it again.
Because the object of the game is to score runs, right? So give me the guys that are run producers versus the guy who just get their singles and then clog up the bases.
Lord have mercy.
Give me a guy that can drive in that run first, not the guy that gets a hit and I need 3 more singles to get him to home plate.
Gosh, I talk about this so much. I've talked about this because I used to, especially in the youth baseball space. My kid is hitting 320, 330.
Right. Parents don't understand. They don't understand. I know what you're talking about.
I'm like, it never hits with nobody on base. He gets his high, he feels good, but then he's not really fast. So it's like a station to station.
Right.
And then the dad would come back to me talking about some game changer. His numbers is this and that. Whatever. And, he got 1 RBI, hitting 400 with 1 RBI in the whole, if
you got a guy that can fly and he's a singles hitter, then he can steal his way in the scoring position. Okay, I'll take that guy all day. That's a different story. But that kid getting his singles, can't get the ball past the outfielders, clogging up the bases, and a lot of times you're hurting the team more than you're helping the team, even though you're getting on base. Because again, I need 3 more hits to get you home. Or if my guy does hit a double, you're stopping at third base because you can't run.
Gosh.
Those are the subtle parts of the game that a lot of parents don't understand.
Really don't.
And again, if you do have that kid, then you go work on him getting faster. You work on getting him stronger so that he can become that guy. That's not to put those kids down but just know that they can improve if they work on it. But first, you have to understand that that's your kid. With a lot of parents have blinders on about their kids and what their abilities are. Right. So, of course, obviously you go through it a lot. That's why you're shaking your head and laughing.
Hey, listen, you preaching right now, bro. And I'm just, gosh, I got about a bunch of kids in my mind, and I'm thinking of that right there. Dallas says, do you look into the level of competition when it comes to scouting players?
Well, if he's talking about from a pro scout perspective, the scouts are looking for, especially with high school players, they're looking for tools. So basically, the tools can be measured regardless of the competition. Meaning bat speed, foot speed, arm speed, those type of things. So so those can be measured. Power. A 400-foot home run is the same whether you're facing a guy throwing 80 or if you're facing a guy throwing 100. Okay, so from that perspective, you don't really look at the level of competition. Now, when you get into the six tool, how the guy plays in game and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, then the level of competition comes into play. There are certain guys who get better when they face better competition. There are some guys who get terrible when they face better competition. Just to give you an example. The kid that you were talking about, the kid you said you like, Tamar.
Yeah.
The videos that I post.
Yeah.
So he's an underclass, right? He played in the area code games as an underclassman.
Okay, wow.
So so the game when they played their game, the very first game they played was at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And he was facing the top guy in the class of 21 pitcher. So that guy's first pitch of the game was 99 miles an hour, 8 o'clock in the morning, and he was on it. He was on it, and he ended up lining out against him against him that at bat. The rest of the guys, he was just striking them out.
Right.
Like, just going through him. He had 2 at bats against that guy. Hit 2 line drives against him. So he's the kind of kid when he faces, the better that guy is, the better he gets.
But that's a high level kid. That's the draftable kid. I mean,
right. But it has nothing to do with physical ability. It's a mentality that he has. Again, that can be taught, but that's the mentality because he doesn't think any pitcher is better than he is. And
that's a whole other hour show to talk about that, right, man. You can have a crazy swing, but if you believe in that thing,
right.
You and I both seen many of crappy swings that we would never teach kids, but these dudes believed in that swing and made it and had great careers in the major leagues.
And that's what I was talking about earlier about that guy who's always the first one on the field. It's an attitude. That attitude will carry you a long way. Or what I was talking about myself earlier about the body language. It's an attitude. And that same attitude can have a negative effect on your career. So that it plays a big part on who you end up being and how you end up playing, your attitude, good and bad. So, so yeah, your attitude can carry you a long way in this game if it's the right attitude.
All right, I love it, man. Reginald says, "What do you think about the scissor kick when batting? Mike Trout and Jose Altuve do it."
I
think what's the name to my boy, third baseman for the Rockies, stud. He does
Arenado.
Yeah, he does it too.
Yeah, I don't know if he does it as much, but I'm not a fan of it. If guys are able to make it work, which I haven't seen a whole lot of guys that are able to make it work,
right?
Go for it. But I'm not a fan of it because it's basically you're getting your body out of alignment and all that kind of stuff. Again, the good all the good hitters throughout history basically do the same thing. They have good balance with good posture and good timing. It's that simple. One of the I guess I want to say the worst thing, but the thing that can work against guys is kids who are really good athletes with bad mechanics. They're still able to have success.
That's right.
So they think those bad mechanics are the reason they're having success. But eventually those bad mechanics catch up to you. Some it catches up in high school, some catches up in college, some catches up in the minor leagues, and some it catches up in the big leagues. But eventually your bad mechanics will catch up to you.
Yes, indeed.
The human body only works in certain ways. So if you're doing something different than what all the other humans are doing, it catches up to you. So I'm not personally not a fan of the scissor kick. If it's working for somebody, I don't try to take it away from them, but usually I haven't seen it work consistently over time. So
okay, that's good. I'm not too much of a fan of it either, and I try to teach my hitters to get out of it on the youth level. But I'm glad that that was a good question. I want to know from your side.
I just think of it this way: because your daughter plays tennis, you said, right?
Yeah.
So because a baseball swing is pretty much the same as a forehand shot in tennis.
Yep.
Does a scissor kick work?
I wish you would tell her that, right? Because dad in baseball, it's so different.
Exact same movement. Yeah, but just think about a scissor kick when you're playing tennis. How that would work. You lose a lot of power, you lose a lot of control over the racket, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's the same thing with hitting with the scissor kick.
Yep. Yeah, hey, listen, I agree with you. I just wish she ain't here right now, but Lord, I wish, because Dad don't know nothing. But anyway, do you think the talent gap between cold weather states, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and warm weather? What do you think about the talent?
There's not a gap in talent. There's a gap in opportunity. Okay, so you're from New York, so just think about this. If you take take everybody in LA and
Mhm.
everybody in New York, and you swap them, you'll get more talent coming out of the people that were in New York if they were in
Right.
LA than the people that are in LA right now.
Mm.
You
I
know,
love it.
the weather allows people to play baseball year round, and
That's right.
it's conducive to playing baseball. So
That's
more
right.
people naturally want to play baseball. You know, Texas, Florida, Georgia, wherever. You know, and so if you had to take the people out of New York, put them in LA or put them in Florida, you would probably get more talent coming out of there than you would anywhere else. And then that's all it is, just the weather and the opportunity. It's not necessarily a gap in talent. It's just that talent isn't playing baseball as much as those guys in the other areas.
I love it, man. And that's kind of what I always said. It's like you can take the top kids from New York and the top kids in LA, you won't see much difference. It's just,
No,
it's that 7, 8, 9, it's just
right.
a little deeper, you know what I'm saying, in talent. And like you said, it's just they're playing all the time, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, because if I don't grow up in LA, I don't know if I'm playing baseball. I'm probably playing
mm,
more football.
mm, mm.
Because I'm in LA and that's what everybody was doing. I got to do it
Right.
more often.
Well, you guys have some you got some balls around you. Shit. But
Yeah, we did.
shoot. Chipper says, have you worked with my nephew Little Tone Anderson? He's out of Atlanta.
Not
I'm
yet.
sure you
No,
know.
I don't know who he is, but I'm sure eventually, if he's any good, I'll run into him.
All right. Um, man, you need to write a book on baseball.
Yeah, many times I heard that one. But
All right.
really, the reality is, any of us that have played it, the level we played at, can write a book.
Yeah, share stories. Yeah.
Because all it is, we're saying stuff that most people haven't heard. It's not unique to
But
you and me.
it's from experience. That's the main
Right,
thing, though. You
right,
know what I'm saying?
right.
That's the
Yeah,
key to
yours will vary from mine, but it'll be similar stories.
right, right.
And that the average person just hasn't experienced. So that's why we were all have the ability to write a book, and we sat down, took the time, and did it. So
Right. And the main thing again, and I talked about this, and I want you guys parents to understand this, okay? I ain't bringing on no fugazi dudes on this show. All right, some dudes that because the following is so big and all of this stuff. Because it's again, just understand who you listen to. Because there may be guys who have huge followings, but don't have the experience and don't have the knowledge that
right.
guys that been there. And I'm not saying everybody that's been there can teach it and all that type of stuff. That's a special gift too, but the foundation needs to be laid of guys that just in my opinion, in my humble opinion. That's why I started going online, started talking and this and that, because there's a lot of guys that talk about what it takes and talk about this league and hitting and all of that who has never stepped foot on a major league, damn near pro field, and sitting there talking this mess. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, because
uh,
you're in it the same reason I'm in it. We're trying to help these kids. We're not trying to get famous or necessarily trying to get rich. We're trying to help these kids. And then you talked about experience. I had Dominic Smith, the New York Mets first baseman.
yeah,
I had him since he was 11 years old, right?
nice.
And like with Dom,
Put together
Dom
a nice
didn't
year this year, man. Mm-hmm.
Dom didn't need no coaching. I mean, I never talked to him about hitting the whole time that I was coaching him. What I talked to him about was how to be a professional. That's what he needed to learn. How to
Mm-hmm.
act on and off the field. Those are the things that I talked about with him. I literally never talked to him about hitting. The only question I ever asked him was because he started a leg kick when he was about 15.
Okay.
And I just asked him, why did you start the leg kick? He said, because I think it helps me with more power. And I turned around and walked away from him after they told me that. That's the only hitting discussion I ever had with him, because the hitting was always there for him. But I had to talk to him about how to be a professional, how to act, how don't do what I did, on and off the field, to sabotage your career. And he almost did it, but he
had a
fixed
nice
himself
year this year.
before.
I saw him play 1 or 2 times this year, and he was
Mhm.
putting up some really solid numbers. Like I always thought, like last couple of years they were platooning him, never really
Yeah,
giving his shot. But he seemed like he really got his shot this year, and he really put together a nice year. I don't know what he
yeah,
finished up, but what I saw in the middle of the season, he was
yeah.
putting
I
up.
think he finished around 330 somewhere in there, with maybe
Wow.
13, 14 home runs.
He
So
just he just looked like it looked
he,
like I belong. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the first year he got that confidence, you know, and it looked like it. You know?
And he's always been like that, from the day that I met him. So he always say, if he was in Kansas City, he'd be a superstar. Get to play every day. But so but again, we didn't talk to him about
I think he proved himself. He's a first round pick, right? High round pick, right?
First round pick. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was happy, man. I was happy to see, when I saw the numbers he was putting up. He was playing the Yankees. I think it was a Subway thing, and he hit a couple doubles. He just looked like, he's like, you could tell he's having a little fun. Like, yo, you know how it is when you get to that point, like, I got this now. I'm good now. You know what I mean? And but he needs to keep working, but
Yeah, but it's like you said, that experience that I had, that the average person can't share that experience because they haven't been through it.
Can't.
And those are the things that I talked to him about, and as well as some of the other guys, because I've had Aaron Hicks too.
Nice.
I coached him, best arm I've ever seen.
Yeah, his skill set is crazy.
But the same thing with him. I never talked to him about anything like, for the most part mechanical, because he had a high baseball IQ, all that stuff. So I just talked to him about, this is what's going to take to get there. This is what's going to take to stay there. Don't do what I did to sabotage your career. Those are the kinds of things that we talked about when he was coming up. I had J.B. Crawford. I had a whole bunch of guys that are.
I saw it today. Joe Thurston posted on there about him, the Gold Glove, and again, he's way up in Seattle. But I was wondering what happened with him with Philly. Why Philly? Because he was a top prospect with Philly, right? And did they get rid of him, or they trade him, or what? What was?
They traded him. I don't want to get too deep into it, but he just wasn't their favorite, right? So for whatever reason, he's a great kid. Because just think about this: when he played for me, he played center field for me.
Really?
And he never complained. And even though he was the best shortstop on that team that he played on, he never complained about wanting to play shortstop. I had him in center field, and he played center field. Never complained one time about he should be playing shortstop, because he was by far the best shortstop on that team. But I needed a center fielder, and he played center field and did a great job in center field. That tells you about his character and what a great kid he was. Because he very easily could have said, "I'm playing shortstop, or I'm not going to play."
Right. Especially he was a first round pick, right? Or high round pick, right? Was he?
Yeah, first rounder. He was the 14th pick. Don was his 12th pick in the same draft, and I had them both. I had them both on the same team.
Wow.
So I'll tell you the story about this team I had that they were on, and I had them when they were young. But so none of them had ever been to a perfect game event, right? So they were coming out of their sophomore year. Actually, I had him. I ended up having I had 3 first rounders in that team. Took them to the perfect game event, and we got into the event late, right? So I guess Perfect Game called themselves going to punish us for getting in late, because we begged them to let us in or whatever, and they put us up against the number 1 team in the tournament, which that year was Team Marucci. And Team Marucci had a 25-man roster. All 25 were D1 commits.
Wow.
Right. And in fact, Perfect Game on their website said that they were going to go undefeated in the tournament, right? So we get there, we get to the tournament again. They had been
punishing you.
Yeah, so none of the kids on our team had been to a Perfect Game event, showcase, nothing. So they know nothing about our kids. So we're playing on the first. We playing on the first game. Not only did we beat them, we embarrassed them. It got to the point. It got to the point where they couldn't even catch routine ground balls because they were so nervous, right? Because basically what it was, they had a bunch of kids who were big fish in small ponds. They weren't used to playing guys their equal, right? The guys that I had, Dominic Smith, J.P. Crawford, I had a kid named Ron Miller who was drafted by the Marlins, Shane Watson, who was a compensation pick for the Phillies, who was the pitcher against that team. KJ Franklin, who was ended up being a second-round pick by the Reds. Dylan Tate, who's in the big leagues with the Orioles, was a first-rounder. He was on that team. Those are all the guys I had on one team, right?
But I keep that story, please. But going into the Perfect Game, they ain't ranked.
They had no ranking, no Perfect Game profile, nothing, and so nobody knew them, right? But all these guys back in LA at the academy, they literally they were facing pro guys since they were 13 years old. So they weren't intimidated by velocity because they had, like I said, they had 25 guys, all of them through 90 plus, all that stuff. And and it was like, it was hilarious because I remember at the home plate meeting, their coach, he gave me this look like, let's get this over with. He wouldn't even look me in the eye. He gave me this look like, let's get this over with. Guys are wasting my time so I can get to the real game. And he I guess he threw his 10th best pitcher or something. And after we started beating them around the ballpark, they got their ace warmed up to come in. We ended up beating him up. And they went through like 4 or 5 of their pitchers that day. And here's the crazier part. I coached 3 of his players.
Really?
I coached 3 of his players, including his starting shortstop and a couple of his pitchers. That's what I thought was hilarious.
Like, to date right now, how many major leaguers have you coached?
I'll even keep count. Maybe 7 or 8.
Nice, man.
And then I got a whole bunch of kids in college.
College guys,
Yeah. But I coached, with guys. I coached them, coached against them. I coached against Bryce Harper when he was, coming up. I coached against Mike Trout when he was in high school.
Nice.
Who got cut from USA Baseball. That's another story.
You said what?
Well, he didn't make the USA Baseball team.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So. Well, that's all. I don't want to badmouth anybody.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. I mean, I would love to hear that story behind the scenes, man. But what do you think are the 5 things kids pre-puberty should work on in the and thoughts on playing all year round?
All right, 5 things kids should work on pre-puberty. They should work on playing football. They should work on climbing trees. They should work on playing out in the backyard. They should work on playing basketball, and whatever else they do that's not organized. That's what kids should be working on. And all this
thoughts on playing year round. I love it. I love that answer, dude. And thoughts on playing all year round.
I play year round, so I can't speak bad against it. Only because I just like playing, and nobody forced me to do it. I wasn't forced to do it. It wasn't really any organized leagues that I played in. It was like pickup games on Sunday. When I was 12 years old, I was playing in adult leagues with my brother. But again, it's because it's what I wanted to do. Nobody was forcing me to do it. So if the kid wants to do it, no big deal. As long as they're not pitching, I'm okay with it. But just as far as paying all this money to play travel ball in the off season, it's a waste of money. Okay, just think about this: you got a 12-year-old, right? Best 12-year-old that's ever played in the history of baseball. What's going to happen when the season's over? He's not getting drafted.
Right.
He's not going to the big league. He's just going to 13U.
Right.
So what's the big deal? Before you get to the big field, the number one focus should be kids having fun. Period. There shouldn't be anything else. They shouldn't be worried about no PG rankings because they're worthless at 12 years old. They're worthless at 18 years old, but especially worthless at 12 years old.
Say that again.
Your kids should be focused on having fun. If they're having fun, they'll develop a love for the game, which they're going to need if they get to the next level. Because as as a professional, you sit in those, you go in those 2 for 20 slumps, and you sit in the hotel room like, man, what am I doing here? I'm ready to go home. But your love of the game will get you through those tough times because they're going to come for everybody. I can tell you, anybody that's ever played at a high level will tell you there was a time that they questioned themselves playing in pro ball, including Hall of Famers.
Many a times.
So if you don't have a true love for the game, you're not going to make it because how many guys do we know end up quitting because they just couldn't deal with it? Talented guys. They just
walk away. I'm about to say good dudes. A lot of money invested. First, second, third rounders walking away.
But they just couldn't handle those tough times because they didn't have the true love for the game, which is what you develop in those pre-puberty years. That's when you develop your love for the game.
Mm.
You know, and because there was a discussion about dads yelling at the kids after the game about what they did wrong in the game. I'm like, why are you even discussing the game after the game? You know, the only discussion is to be, where are we going to eat? Let's go get some ice cream. That should be the only discussion after a game for any kid, really, but especially for a 12-year, under 12-year-old. You know, you should not be asking your kid, why did he miss that ball? What was he? You shouldn't be asking your kids that kind of stuff. They already know they screwed up if they screwed up. You know, the only thing you should tell your kid is, I'm proud of you, I love you, let's go eat. That should only be the now. If the kid brings up stuff, that's a different story. Then you can talk about it. But you as a parent should not be bringing up negative stuff he did on the field, you know, at 12 years old, because it doesn't matter what he did on the field at 12 years old. You know, only thing that matters is, did you have fun? Did you give 100%? All right, good job. Let's go eat.
Oh, gosh, love it. Me too, a little bit, and I need to get better at that myself. I'm real. Are you right?
I know it's hard when you have a kid, because we hate to see our kids fail, especially in baseball. But that's I'm telling you, if you want to produce strong kids, you know, because when you do it that way, it gives them confidence. Okay? It builds up their confidence and their self-esteem. You know, as much as you hate to see them fail, you know, you can't take it out on the kid, because it just lowers their self-esteem, and it makes it tougher, you know, in the long run, you know, and it diminishes their love for the game. But if you're always positive, no matter what they do, it just builds up their self-esteem and their confidence in the game.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm gonna get you a few more questions, Coach, and we'll get you up out of here, man. But I have seen coaches who don't believe in long toss to strengthen the player's arm. Do you believe in long toss, and can you explain the benefits or disadvantages of doing it?
I 100% believe in it. You know, again, as growing up, we played all the sports. So if we weren't throwing the baseball, we were throwing the football. If we weren't throwing the football, we were, you know, passing the basketball around. All that stuff build up our arm strength. Okay, me as a player, I never had arm trouble because I was always throwing something: football, baseball, rocks, you know, whatever it was. My arm was always in motion. So again, just think of it this way: when you're walking, is there an advantage to walking or not walking? What happens to your legs if you don't walk? They start to atrophy, and they start to get weak. And then when you try to walk, you get tired, and sometimes you even hurt yourself if you try to walk too much after not using your legs for a long time. Same thing applies to your arm. Okay, the old saying is, if you don't use it, you lose it. You know, again, you don't have to throw off a mound, but if you're throwing off flat ground, and you can't hurt your arm throwing off flat ground. Okay. So the more you throw, the more you build up the arm strength and the stamina, and you know, the safer it's going to be for you.
All right. I got a couple more questions. I just want to put this comment in there. Don says, D, Coach G, you have had some great guests, but I'm loving this one. Every 8U and older needs to hear this one here from Coach. I agree. Parents especially too. Damn. He said, damn, I'm a bad dad. I can't talk hitting after the game. Thank you. Well,
obviously there's a way to do it, but again, it's the way some dads do it. You know, why are you striking out? Why'd you take that pitch? That's not how you do it.
Right.
You know, if you want to talk baseball with your kids, just ask them, you know, what they're thinking. How you feeling? How'd you feel today? You know, what do you want to work on next time we go hit? You know, that's how you have the conversation, if you're going to have conversation. But again, it's the way because I sit in the stands with a lot of these parents, you know, just watching games, and I just cringe at some of the comments that come out of these parents' mouth about their own kid. You know, it's just hard for me to believe. You know, so you know, if you're going to do it the right way.
Is Coach Carl coaching at the Power Showcase this weekend?
No, I was supposed to be there, but I decided not to go. So maybe I'll go next year, because they canceled the one in Miami. So, but no, so now I'm not going this year.
Okay. Coach, love the youth academies. We are at the NOLA Youth Academy with Eddie Davis here in New Orleans. All right.
Yep, he's doing a good job down there.
All right. Randall says, "Is the academy, I'm guessing, in LA still open? I need to send my nephew down there."
I think right now they're closed for the COVID stuff because they're not really doing a lot of stuff in California. But hopefully it'll be open soon. And when it is, just go down there and get some of that free help because everything is free down there at the academy. There's one in New Orleans, LA, Cincinnati. Where's the other one? I think there's one in Philly or something.
Okay. Yeah, I knew about the Cincinnati and LA. I didn't know about the New Orleans one.
Yeah.
What in the last couple questions? What has changed regarding the catcher position over the years? And I'm guessing from your side.
From what I see at the professional level, there's just not as much base stealing as there used to be. So the focus is on handling pitchers. You may be getting some offense from your catchers, but basically just handling pitchers and getting your pitchers because pitching is going crazy with the velocity and a new pitcher every inning and all that kind of stuff. So the main focus is being able to handle the pitcher correctly and making sure he gets pitches and not so much, having to throw guys out as much as it used to be.
All right. Russ says, D, you must replay this a few times. So much info. I agree. And listen, man, shout out to everybody that was listening. I didn't even give you new shout outs like I usually do, but there's so many different people that I came on. I'll be here all day. But listen, Carl, man, I appreciate it. So I know you're in the Atlanta area and you working with hitters left and right and coaching teams and stuff. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, fly in town or people that are here in Atlanta, how can they reach out to you if they wanted to work with Carl Nichols?
Well, I'll give out my email, and then my email is CANIC, the number 7 _ 2000 at yahoo.com. So that's CANIC 7 _ 2000 at yahoo.com. And probably the easiest way is just contact me through Messenger on Facebook because I'm on there all the time arguing with people. So.
And that's one thing. I like your posts. I like the comments and know that because I think that it's certain people. I've actually reached out to ex-pro guys or it's guys that go hard, and especially younger guys that I actually reach out to them and be like, listen, just watch yourself because and I know they're grown men, but.
Right.
Certain guys really, go overboard and whatever. But I like your comment. You stay at the right even kill. You give good points, and it's like, and then the validation is always there because your background and and you don't, go overboard with some comments, and it's just so he's right.
Yeah. Usually, what I do is I'll ask a question and just give a guy a chance to explain what he's talking about, and then and then when he gives his explanation, then if it doesn't sound right, then I give follow-up questions. And basically, I just lead them into putting their own foot in their mouth.
Right.
Versus, a lot of times they get offended sometimes, and the crazy part is when, they think I'm just some average Joe off the street and they start asking me, well, have you ever played? And, I was like, well, I always downplay it, until somebody else comes in, you're arguing with the next major leaguer. I'm like, oh.
Right. But I it's sometimes, but those guys need to be called out. That so-called know what they think they know what they talking about.
Right. And I don't do it just, obviously I guess I do like arguing, but the reason I do it is because so many kids are getting taken advantage of. So I at least want the parents to know what they're getting into before they start listening to certain people. Because when I'm giving lessons, first thing I always tell a kid is, first of all, don't believe anything I tell you. All right. Whatever I say to you, go research it. See if the good hitters are doing what I'm telling you. And if I'm telling you something that isn't accurate, you need to call me on it. Tell me this. That's some BS you're teaching me. All right. That's what I tell all the kids. And then I tell them, if you go to another instructor, okay, you got to ask a lot of questions about what they're telling you. Because a lot of times they're telling you stuff, because I've had kids like, well, this coach told you to do this. Does that even make sense to you? And they'll
Right.
say, no, it doesn't make sense. Well, if it doesn't make sense, why did you do it? Because he told me to. I said, no, that's not a reason to do it.
Yep.
Okay. If somebody says something that doesn't make sense, stop them right there and ask questions. Okay. If he can't give you an answer that makes sense, you probably need to go find somebody else. And especially if they get upset at you asking questions, you definitely need to go find somebody else. No coach should ever get mad at you asking questions, no matter how stupid the question may seem to him. Okay, because at the end of the day, you have to understand what you're being taught. This doesn't matter if I think my information is the best information in the world. If you don't understand it, it's worthless. Okay. So I always tell kids, always get in the habit of always asking questions when you're getting instruction, especially with your hitting, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to get in there and hit, not me.
You ain't lying.
So because if I give you a lesson and you go 0 for 15, I'm not going to say I screwed you up. I'm going to say, as an instructor, you didn't listen to what I was telling you. That's usually what they say.
Right.
Come on back in and give me $150 more so we can work on it. No instructor is ever going to say I screwed the kid up, I gave him the wrong information, or he didn't understand, I didn't communicate well enough so that he understands. Nobody ever says that. So they're always the bad instructors are always going to blame the kid. He didn't listen, he didn't do what I told him to do. That's why he's struggling.
Man, what was about to say, take some notes. My nephew running jokes on me about yeah. But okay, this is yeah, he getting on me. My nephew played ball too, so he joking on you know how I go.
I understand. Like I said, sometimes we got to learn the hard way.
Right.
I mean, my kid didn't play, so it's easier for me to talk about it.
Right.
Because I'm sure I would have been the same way if my kid played. But my kid, my son was a musician, and
Nice.
I don't know nothing about music, so ain't nothing I can tell him about music. But the baseball thing, it might have been a little different. But my nephew played, so so I kind of went through it, and and I was able to just watch him play, even though he's only 5 years younger than me. But
that's like me. That's like me.
but he actually ended up doing a lot better than I did. Ray Langford's my nephew.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Ray had a great career. Yeah, I did not know that. Damn,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
So there wasn't a whole lot I could teach him. But anyway, so.
Yeah, no, Ray could freaking play.
He's my nephew.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's right. Another LA kid. I forgot. Yeah, man. But yeah, Ray had an awesome career, man. But I didn't know that, bro. I did not know that. All right. That was called. I know somebody asked, they couldn't find you. Russ put it up there. Russ also says, can all you ex-players in Atlanta create a camp for kids to attend? And there are different camps and stuff, but I
think Marquise Grissom was talking about doing something what he's talking about, which I think we need to do. That maybe all of us need together and just try to hit different regions.
Yes.
Giving camps, and however, whoever the organizers are probably need to do that. But it was something I would definitely get involved in if we could all get together and do that.
Yeah.
I think, just to show our faces out there.
Yeah, it's needed.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, it's I've talked to Lou very similar about something like this. And that's why I said, like, the beauty of it, I wanted to put you guys on film doing what you guys do with the hitting, and the Marvin with the pitching, and Lou with the infield, and obviously Marquise with the hitting and doing different things when he does outfield and all of that. But I definitely think for the people that are outside of Atlanta, I want you to understand the type of goal that is here. I'm not saying you have to come. We can make arrangements and stuff to start doing this all over the country. I know, Carl, you travel all over, as it is right now. But stuff like this will come up. We will get this together. It needs to be, especially coming spring and summertime, to get this thing really rocking and rolling. And because I truly believe that There's great instructors all around the country, but I think from the cumulative of knowledge, major league experience, and been there and done that type of thing here, and I'm in and out of Atlanta, but I'm here a lot, and it's crazy. So I'm just here to promote.
Right.
You guys also do the what I do, but I just think that this is we can really, and I told Lou behind the scenes when he came over this, is like we can really stir up the youth baseball space with this, the type of knowledge and the type of experience that's here. So for the listeners listening in, we'll get it together. Us pro guys will get it together for you guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there's some things going, and there's some things working in the background that people don't know about too. That's going to be happening as well. So,
right.
So just tell everybody out there to just be patient, because something's coming in a big way.
It really is. So yeah, I know little things going on, Major League Baseball and HBCU stuff. So HU used to beat down A&T in baseball. Sorry, nephew. Oh Lord. Okay. And again, thanks, Carl. I've had the opportunity to ask Carl pointed questions about hitting, and he's helped me learn more and more. I really appreciate it. All right, Eric. Eric posted that. All right. So hold the camp. My 12U son will be there, no doubt. Carl, man. So listen, I always have my guests kind of take us out, man. You've been giving us, awesome nuggets, man. We've been on rocking and rolling, man, and talking for an hour and 40, which is great, man. I usually don't go this long, but it's just great information that you've been giving, my guy. So, but if you could, take us out with a great message, man. I always have my guests do that, man. I would appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of parents watching this game, and again, I want to re-emphasize about, whatever age your kid is, the number one priority is to make sure they're having fun. Okay, because eventually this baseball stuff's going to end, and all they're going to have is their memories. Okay, make sure those memories are positive, happy memories. Put in your work, do whatever you need to do, whatever level your kid gets to, that'll take care of itself. But how they feel about you and the game and all this baseball stuff, at the end of the day, is just going to be contingent on the times they had, especially up to 12 years old. Make sure your kids are having fun. Stop focusing so much on stuff that doesn't matter. The rankings and the tournaments and all that other stuff. And then one other thing too is, especially the kids who are thinking about doing baseball serious. Help your kid find something else that they're passionate about that's non-sports related. Okay, because I can't tell you how many times at the pro level I'm sitting in the hotel and all I'm thinking about is baseball, and it's just driving me crazy. I'm adding all the stress to my life about baseball, and I'm nothing else to think about because I didn't know how to do anything else because baseball was my life. Okay, find something that something else your kid can be passionate about: music, art, hunting, whatever. Something that just takes them totally away from the sport, and it'll help them make them a better baseball player in the long run.
Hey, you got me questioning my dad's skills. I ain't gonna lie, but I'm like, man, I gotta tell my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like you saying baseball, but you're right. I'm
right.
talking from a tennis standpoint, man.
But it helps. It actually helps you with your goal you're trying to get to. Sometimes you got to step away so that you can refocus. You can't just stay focused on something all the time. And makes your eyes go blurry.
Yeah,
you got to look away so that you can refocus back to what you're focused on. So that's all it is.
Hey, great advice. Carl, I appreciate you, man. So real fast before we get off here, November 21st, I got that showcase down in Waco, Texas. So all my Texas or even surrounding areas, will be the last showcase as of right now going into, for the year. Appreciate everybody that's been to the 3 other showcases I've had so far. I'm going to finish up with this one on November 21st in Waco, Texas, going back down to Texas. Also tomorrow, I was trying to get a JUCO coach on, but I don't think the timing is going to be right. So hopefully you'll get them on Friday out of California. either way, I'll be on at 4 p.m. tomorrow Eastern. Shout out to my boy Carl for taking out the time, man, and spitting this knowledge to you guys. This is one of those things, man. You know, the beauty of this platform, man, and the parents that are across the country that are listening in. I hope you guys understand it, and I know you guys do, the jewels that this man is dropping to you and have given you this last hour, hour and a half. I highly suggest you share this message. Tag somebody that needs to hear this, parents especially. Hell, I learned, you know, certain things about the blind pitching thing,
Yeah.
the parenting skills and stuff that, you know, just needs to be kind of, you know, talked about again. Even though you may know these things, but
We
it just
gotta
needs
support. We
to
gotta support each other. We gotta support each other. That's all. That's basically what it's about. Just supporting each other. And then I want to give you a shout out for doing this show because I've learned a lot, especially when you bring on the college coaches. You know about the whole college process that I can relay to the kids that I work with. So you know, big shout out to you for having this show because trust me, a lot of people are learning a lot of stuff, including myself.
see, and that's what it's about, man. In this beautiful game of baseball, you never learn enough. All right. You never learn. You know, we learn recruiting or baseball. You know, I've been in around the game many, many years. And like I said, he just gave me 2 or 3 tips for me. You know what I'm saying? When I'm going and talking and hitting and, you know, so anyway, I appreciate you, my brother, man. We'll get together, man, and in person and chop it up, man, and camps and stuff like that. I have some visions and stuff that, you know, for me that I believe will help, you know, you and your business and what you're doing. Reach out to this man. I know I got my thing up there, but you know, if you want to learn hitting at a very high level, he just told you seven major leaguers, you know, countless guys he put into and help guide them into college. You know, I vouch for this dude as far as knowledge of hitting. And there's very few guys that I will do and say, you know, and put my little check mark on them. You know, my opinion, who cares, right? But hell, you're on my show, so that means that, you know, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna just bring in, like I told you, I will not bring on no scrub, nobody that won't teach anybody anything. So this guy knows what he's talking about, and that's why I brought him on here. So follow him on social media, Carl Nichols on Facebook, and you know, reach out to him. He's in the Atlanta area. You know, hey, guy, you come in here for a perfect game. You can come here and get a perfect swing. All right. So, you know, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So, all right, man. Appreciate you, Carl. Thank you, my brother.
All right. Well, thanks for
4
having me.
p.m. Eastern tomorrow, family. I appreciate you. All right. Thank you, Carl, again, my brother.
All right. I'll talk to you.
Yep.